podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to your post-match Raw. Podcasting to you from my field here in beautiful rural late Saturday night Ireland. I'm Trev Downey, and joining me to give their immediate reactions to Liverpool 2, Aston Villa 0, walk around it in the Premier League from Anfield are Dave Hendrick and Karl Matchett. You know, Dave, some of these days the Reds are going to have to start playing some actual teams, and then we'll get to see what they're really like.
Yeah, I mean, those who doubted are now starting to look very, very silly. And to be fair, that includes many people in our own fan base who spent much of the summer and much of last season after the announcement that Jurgen was leaving, deriding the fact that it was all over for us and that people would soon come to realise that Jurgen was a miracle worker. Well, it turns out that when you've got the best centre-back to maybe ever play the game, arguably the best goalkeeper in the world, arguably the best right-back in the world, arguably the best attacker to ever play in the Premier League, it becomes quite easy to win a lot of football matches if you put them in a position to win a lot of football matches. And credit to this man, Arne Slot, he has put our lads in positions to win a lot of football matches in a lot of different ways. We didn't play particularly well tonight. We came away with quite a comfortable 2-0 lead. Like, other than that little flourish they had just before the break with the two-headed chances that Queeving did really well with, did you feel at all tonight that they were going to score? Because I didn't. And that's a really good Aston Villa team. They're not in the best of form, but it's a really good team that have been a top 4 level team for 2 years now. Since Unai Emery took over, up until now, their form is top 4 level. That's a good team, and we have put them to bed tonight very, very professionally.
Yeah, there's so much to admire about the team under Slot at the moment, and it's a remarkable mixture of you're wincing at the sloppiness, and yet there still remains that feeling of control. And I think, Karl, and this is going to sound awfully sort of almost infantile as an observation, but the control comes from, for me at least, always having enough people behind the ball, no matter how aggressive the opposition is being. So if we have someone slipped by, there's another person to put a foot in. And if that person's foot in doesn't quite succeed and the ball bobbles on, there's a third person to put a foot in. And I love this swarm defending that we've been doing. Now, it's relying on, we have been reliant on our two centre halves being the two best centre halves in the league. We are relying on some good covering runs from our midfielders, but I think it's okay to do that. I think that's okay to have as part of your actual game plan. And it's not as comfortable perhaps as when we used to go out and then really keep the foot on the neck and hammer in goal 2 and 3 and sort of make games relatively safe. We might concede a couple at the end. This is a little bit different, but I'm kind of getting used to it, and I think I kind of like it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Look, I mean, Dave kind of just said it before. We can win, and we have won games in a lot of different ways. I'll apologise at this point if there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of fireworks outside. So I think from now on, Saturday night Raws have to be reserved for Champions League finals only. Yeah. I think like tonight it was almost like a win in reverse, or at least a performance in reverse, where a lot of the time this season we've sort of been quite controlled and quite steady and quite ease our way into matches, and then sort of up the ante a little bit, if you like, as the game goes on, if we haven't taken the lead. Whereas this time it was kind of a quite high tempo, quite intense first half, let's say, and then second half we started off by trying to be on the controlling foot. So I absolutely think that that's valid. I absolutely think it's valid to rely on your centre backs being quick and really good and strong in the challenge, just the same way as it's valid if you look to your centre forward at being great in the air, or your right winger being able to have a really long throw, or your set piece coach is actually the best coach of the club, so utilise them. But all of those things are valid. There is no one way to win a football match, but Liverpool are proving that they can do it in 4, 5, 6 different ways.
Speaking of which, I had an absolutely lovely time this evening watching the set piece coach of Aston Villa, who it turns out is actually Nickelback, changing careers. It's fucking fantastic to see that.
Talk about him at some point.
It's great to see that someone can sort of swivel in terms of their direction of travel and end up coaching Aston Villa.
I actually thought when he turned around in the wind there and his hair was going that it was Nicolas Cage from Con Air.
Like, you know, the way many of us have mocked Jason Tindall at Newcastle because he's got that main character syndrome thing.
Yeah.
Like, this guy, you're not even the number 2. You're the set piece coach, and there you are front and centre, leaping around the place, throwing your arms up in the air over the most simple set pieces. Like, I understand part of his job is to coach the set pieces.
Yeah, but beforehand, Dave, not in game.
Exactly. But I also would have thought one of his jobs would have been to come up with, innovative set pieces. The short corner and the left-footed cross to the back post is as old as time. You haven't come up with that. That's not something that you've come up with in a moment of genius and now you can't believe it hasn't worked. That's just something you've taken from somebody else. And yes, you might work on it a fair bit, but it hasn't worked for you. I don't know how it is that this man can stand there and behave like he's come up with some wonderful bit of genius when, I'm not being funny about this, he's at Villa years. He came in under Gerrard. In that entire time, Villa have never really been a great team at set pieces. Onana got a few goals earlier this season. That's mostly because he's just bigger than everybody else. Again, that's not on coaching. That's a good delivery by a fullback and a guy being bigger than everybody else. This fella has some weird idea of himself as this creative genius. But, it's all very rudimentary stuff, and their set pieces tonight were largely shit.
I suppose if you said...
I was going to say, sorry, should we also suggest that most of the time, or at least the set-piece coaches that I know, part of that duty is to set up off the ball as well, behind the set-piece. That didn't seem to be on show tonight.
So you don't get countered on.
Yeah, I kind of forgive him a lot of his theatrics. Like, if you've spent the better part of a decade as the front man of a post-Nirvana, inexplicably successful grunge band, rock crossover, you probably have a little bit of main character syndrome, so we'll cut him some slack on that one. I also had a lovely time tonight, beginning David Coote tweets and not finishing them, because as the match went on, I kept waiting for the David Coote moment. This is the chief moment where I can come up with something and just make people laugh, because he's the epitome of the PGMOL uselessness. And when I heard that we had him and that absolute numpty on VAR tonight, Tierney, I was genuinely, I know it's become a cliche, but I was genuinely nervous. And it seemed to me as the game went on, lads, there was a few times where there was every chance that there was going to be an opportunity for one or both of them to come together in a double act and absolutely screw us over. And I think probably the best part was, for me, but the one that summed it up most, was the fact that VAR were having a look at the shirt pulling when they completely ignored a push on Darwin in the first minute. That kind of, to me, was kind of summed it up. But there'll be lots more we'll get to, no doubt. I'm sure both of you have opinions on Mr. Coote and Mr. Tierney that we can come to in the moments. Karl, just to speak briefly about the Liverpool lineup with you, we knew there was going to be a couple of choices to make in each of the lines. A lot of people possibly thought that Tsimikas would hold on to his position. A lot of people weren't quite sure whether it would be either Jones or Dom Szoboszlai. Ended up being Curtis. And people weren't quite sure what the front three would be, but we're pretty sure that Diaz and Salah would be two of them. Turns out Coote dropped out for Nunes. Our bench is starting to look very good with the very exciting prospect that is. Yaros alongside Gomez, Endo, Szoboszlai, Gakpo, Tsimikas, Kwanzaa, Morton and Bradley. I mean, it doesn't really bear too much dwelling on, Karl, but was there anything that sort of you were shocked at or you wanted to comment on about the Liverpool lineup before I ask both of you about Villa? Because I'm curious to get your thoughts on both of your thoughts on them.
No shocks, definitely not. I was actually quite pleased, and I think it was the right call. Jones got the nod over Szoboszlai to start based on recent matches. I just about edged for Tsimikas over Robertson, but again, it's not really a surprise, is it, for him to come back in? I think we both went for Nunes to start, just by rote of rotation. But I think if Coote had have started, I don't think anyone would have been complaining about that either. So, yeah, we'll get to Darwin. We will get to Darwin for sure. Let me stay with you and just get your take on Villa, and then I'll go to Dave for his. And we'll get it kind of out of the way this end of the show, because it as Dave said earlier on, you know, this is a very good team full of very good footballers. And, you know, yes, they are on not a great run. They've same as City, 4 defeats in a row, which has sort of set them back, as it has the Mancunians in a way where they were sitting top of the Champions League, which was quite surreal. And they'd be so much better off, obviously, in the Premier League without that run of defeats. But if they were ever going to be up for a game, it was against, you know, us at Anfield. You can imagine that it would have been exactly the kind of thing that he would have been geeing them up about in the advance. Old Ken Dracula there in the sideline. And he went tonight with the best goalkeeper in the world, according to TNT Sports, co-coms, Martinez, Konsa, Carlos, Torres and Dean, Onana, Tielemans, Bailey, Rogers, Ramsey and Watkins. And as you watch them, Karl, it's really, really clear to see, even on the TV, which can often be very, very disappointing in allowing you to get a bird's eye view of a game and lineups and shapes and stuff like that. You can see their straight lines of 4-4-2, and you can see what they're trying to do with that system, or at least I think I can, but I wouldn't mind getting your take on it. And on the bench, they have, you know, lots of go-to guys there as well. Olsen, Mings, McGinn, who had to come on, Duran, who came on, Buendia, Philogene, Matson, both of them came on, Bogard and Kamara, who also came on. A lot of good footballers knocking around this club. Yeah, definitely. They've got a really good squad put together. They've had some really strong transfer windows of late, and arguably the one that they've just had might have been even better had they not sent some out on loan, as Dave was pointing out in our Scouted ahead of the weekend match. I think the squad's really strong. It's very routine and easy to build a squad in terms of personnel, what they do, their jobs for Unai Emery, because he's played the same way for years and years, and he's really, really clear on what he wants each role in each position to do. And that's a very good starting point for team building, of course. I think the only surprise out of the starting 11 here was that John McGinn didn't start. I wasn't 100% sure if Aston Villa were allowed to have a team without John McGinn in the starting lineup this year, but it turns out that they are, so that's probably a good thing for them. Rest of it kind of as you'd expect, to be honest. A lot of power and pace on counterattacks, a lot of really capable ball carriers in particular. Like, a lot of their attacking play does rely on ball carrying over like fairly large expanses of grass, and you know, tonight Bailey, Onana and Ramsey, as well as the front two, are all capable of doing that. So it's a really, really big strength of theirs. It's why you have to be so switched on against their transitions, and it's why in particular I think yet again tonight Konate was an absolute standout, because he's one who really has not just the pace and power to match people, but the size, which makes it difficult for them to go all the way around him and still be in possession of the ball when they come out the other side. So I think Villa are really, really well set up. I think that their use of the squad is not quite optimal. That's a managerial thing, just in terms of the sheer volume of games that they've got with the Champions League and so on and so forth. But they're more than good enough and very, very settled and set up well, so that they will definitely be in the top 6 come the end of the season.
And just for clarification, you don't see them falling away any further than that. You think top 6, and would that top 6 be as a result of maybe managing to get a little bit of a run in the Champions League, or do you expect them just to sort of fade in that too?
I mean, I don't think Villa have any trouble getting like a playoff spot in the Champions League. Definitely not. But I didn't think that at the beginning. That's why I thought earlier on this season, after we saw the start of the Champions League, if they'd have just sort of said, you know what, 12th is absolutely fine. It doesn't make any difference. There's no need to kill ourselves in an extra 3 Champions League games if that's going to cost us in 3 Premier League games afterwards. They haven't decided to take that route. They've kind of gone basically as strong as lineup as possible in every game with just the odd couple of changes. And that's what's cost them recently, to be perfectly honest. So I think that they will be fine. Like, I know they're like down to 8th position at the minute, but over the longer term, I would expect Fulham to probably drop off. At some point, maybe Nottingham Forest do as well, presumably. So I think that they'll be okay. And even if you say 7, like top 7, I think they'll be absolutely fine with that. And part of that in the second half of the season is going to depend on how far they go in the Cups.
Yeah, I just, by the way, I completely agree with your Ibu Kanate shout there, who I saw described by our own Simon Brundish as a great defender who defends like a WWE character, which I thought was possibly a bit open to misinterpretation. I think I know what he means. It's probably the whole ragdoll effect that he seems to have on everybody around him. Dave, I wanted to see if you had any extra hot takes on Villa you wanted to mention, or any of their players in particular you wanted to point out before we get into our match details.
No, I just think they've got a really good squad. I think they're really well set up, not just for the immediate short term, but you look ahead the next 4 or 5 years, you look at the age profile of the players that they have, and I think they're really well set up, and I think they've got kind of good contingency plans in case of injuries. I think they've got good succession plans. You look at left back with Digne, who's 31. Well, Ian Matson's behind him, who's 22. You look at Ollie Watkins, who's 29. Got John Duran. So they could afford to maybe move Watkins on next summer and commit to Duran as the number 9. And you look at the midfield as, you know, a good mix of players there, both age and talent. I think it's a really good squad. I think he's a good manager for where they want to be right now, which is competing for 4th. But ultimately, if he's in the Europa League with them every year, they're very happy with that, considering where they've been, how long of a period they've gone through, where it's been very tough for them. Like, it's a long time since the Martin O'Neill Aston Villa days, where they were a consistent top 6, top 7 team playing in Europe every year. They had 3 years in the Championship, which, for my money, Villa are the biggest club in the Premier League era to drop out. Like, historically, it's a huge club. European Cup winner, 7-time league title winner, 7-time FA Cup winner. It's a huge club. They're the biggest club to drop out of the Premier League. Now, you could argue City, but City weren't City when they dropped out. It's great to see them back, being so good, being competitive. They've got tons of talent, and the future's very bright for them. So even with defeat tonight, even, like Karl said, 8th in the league, but like, nobody's buying Fulham as a 7th place finish. I don't think anyone's buying Forest as a 3rd place finish. Brighton, I don't think they'll finish 4th, but there's a lot of good teams in the league now. There's a lot of good parity in the league. And, you know, even if Villa want to look at it and say, okay, well, you know, things aren't going great, well, they just need to look. Arsenal have the same points total as them. If they lose tomorrow, we'll have the same points total as them. So if they're measuring themselves against Arsenal, which I think is one of the clubs they will want to measure themselves against, along with us and along with City, they can say, okay, well, we might feel disappointed, but if we've got the same points as Arsenal and we're disappointed, it's a really good sign of the direction that we're heading in.
Every day, thousands of Comcast engineers and technologists like Leslie put people at the heart of everything they create.
With my team at Comcast, we developed the Xfinity voice remote and tested it to recognize different types of accents, inflections, and languages.
New movies.
Movies for kids.
Películas para las familias.
Now 40 million voice commands a day are heard by the Xfinity voice remote. Visit ComcastCorporation.com to learn more.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. Ha. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes and games consoles. Visit libertyshield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
Hard to argue with any of that, man. Hard to argue with any of that. Yeah, it's obviously way too early to be looking at tables, but you know, so heartening to see that gap opening up, because we did say, I think both of us on our separate podcasts and probably on the last row as well on Thursday evening, that you know, this is the opportunity, and if the opportunity presents itself, and I think everyone just had this slight maybe inkling that City might fuck up, and I'm really heartened by the attitude I'm seeing from Guardiola, because he's straight into that prissy kind of, well, it's like, we've won for 7 years, probably time to let someone else have a go, and he's having a chat there with Van Hecke at the end, and he's doing that kind of, I actually know a guy exactly like
performance
theatre, but this kind of, I'm being nice to you now, but I'm actually really cross, and it's just pathetic to watch, and it's as you say, it's all look at me, it's performative bollocks.
In the Premier League now, right, in the era of Guardiola, there is one way and one way only that you can win a title against Manchester City, and that is to blitz your way through the first half of the season.
Demoralise them.
And create such a gap that you demoralise them and they give up.
Yeah.
And we have experience of this. We can look at 18, 19, 21, 22, and from an outside perspective, we can look at Arsenal last season and the season before, even ourselves involved in last season. If you don't open a gap on City and you get into the title run, and I always look at the title run as the last 10 games, that's where things really start to get pressurised. If you go into that last 10 games behind City, you're dead. If you go in 2 or 3 or even 4 points ahead of them, I still don't like your chances, because they just have this incredible ability to grind out win after win after win. You cannot chase City, and you cannot be in a tight race with City. You have to demoralise them. You have to obliterate them. We've seen it multiple seasons with them now. Since our title win, we've seen it, including our title win, and each season after, we've seen it with them, where they will kind of start slow, and they don't really kick on until about late January, early February. And then it's just this relentless parade of wins. And that's done Arsenal the last 2 years. It did us the year before that. If you open the gap, and we now have a 5-point gap on them, and they're coming to Anfield very soon, and a win will put us 8 ahead of them, all of a sudden, they will start to have significant doubts over their ability to catch us, especially given the form that they're in. Pep now losing 4 games in a row for the first time in his managerial career. That's going to cause him, with all the success he has, this is a first for him. So now he's going to have some doubts. Because you know, and Karl will know, no matter how good you are at something, if something bad happens to you for the first time, even if you're the best in the world at what you do and you're very, very confident in general, if a bad thing happens to you for the first time, there is always doubt. So now we might get Pep second-guessing himself and overthinking things. And they don't look like a team right now that's capable of mounting a charge where if we're 8 points clear and let's say we have a couple of slip-ups, they don't look like a team ready to pounce and overtake us. It's early yet, obviously, but this is how you go and win a Premier League title. You start like an absolute rocket out of the blocks, and you become the one that they're chasing, but you get further and further away the more they slip up. they will eventually just fold.
Yeah, I mean, it's really tempting to think along those lines, and I couldn't help but wonder to myself as well if there is anything at all by way of negativity that comes out of this ongoing investigation. You can see your man's head going. You can see his head going constantly in press conferences. He's not able for anything like that.
He hasn't signed a new contract yet, Trev.
That's the point. So, like,
that's
the ego
playing
and
on
the
everybody.
indignance. Everybody's thinking that. Everybody's thinking that. You know. Look, it's a lovely little added extra. I will say that. Credit before you and I, Dave, go for the first 25 or 26 minutes. Credit to Martin McMullen on Twitter, who responded to my tweet about your man looking like Nickelback with that final Mo goal was how we remind him, which is a fucking tremendous little reference to
he's a cracking fellow
to a 90s song. So the opening part of the match, Dave, we'll take that. We'll take in the Darwin goal, and we'll go to about 25 minutes or so. And now I thought right immediately there was a potential here, and I would just before we even get into anything else in that opening attack. There looked to be some opportunity for at least a question about the push on Darwin in the opening minute or so. Now, of course, what I was watching on was doing this buffering bullshit just at that moment, so I didn't even get to see the replay. And when I came back a few seconds later, there wasn't even talk of VAR. So would you just clarify for me what happened there, whether or not there was a case?
I didn't think it was a strong case.
Okay.
The thing is, like, a lot of it as well is situational. I don't think you're getting that at that point of a game. I think you might get that maybe a little bit later, or you might at least get a proper look at it. And maybe Karl has a different idea about this, but for me, I just don't think you're getting that in the first minute or two of a game. Maybe later, maybe the referee and the VAR would take a different view on it, but I think early in the game, you're wasting your time even appealing for it.
Yeah, I didn't think. Sorry, I was just going to say I didn't think it was a pen. But I've seen bad referees give them. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, true.
There wouldn't be was there a check? Do we know, was there even a check, Karl?
What was that, sorry?
Was there even a check, a VAR style check on it or anything like that? Was it looked at, I guess is what I'm saying.
Not that it was like signalled as in it went to a yellow proper check, no.
Okay, said. Now, what there was very obviously going on, Dave, was a lot of pulling and dragging, and look at Dean on Mo Salah. He got away with absolute murder in the first half, constantly. And that's the most obvious thing that I could see in those opening minutes. It was a nice break from us on 5. Trent playing in Mo Salah, and his low shot was blocked. A gorgeous left-footed ball by Trent then across to Luis Diaz on 7 minutes. His control was good. His pullback is good, but it was intercepted. Curtis plays a ball forward, and McAllister forced the corner in 8 minutes. Should have been an opportunity, but led to nothing. There was a Watkins snapshot in 10. Really good block and track back run by Gravenberch on 11. One, I think we've seen him do on multiple occasions recently. Sort of bailing out. I think it was Trent and maybe Ibu as well.
Trent and Ibu both decided to follow the runner.
Yeah, they both sort of got sent for a coffee by the attacker, and Grav came across brilliant to cover. It was great to see. Nice bit of Villa pressure on 15. Bailey ended up heading over from a Tielemans cross, and these lads are wasting time every time they have a goal kick. Every time. Of course, Coote does nothing about it, and the crowd are getting very antsy about it. It's interesting, wondering, like, it's clearly a deliberate tactic because it was so noticeable. But on 90 minutes, we go ahead, and then we'll pause here and then just do another few bits and pieces as well. There's one or two other things I want to take out of it. It is Darwin Nunes who puts us ahead, and it's actually from a corner. And again, to go full circle back to Nickelback, he sat down fairly quick when we were counter-attacking from their set pieces, you'd have to say. And we did this a lot today. It was Virgil who played an almost Trent-like pass forward to release Mo into the space. he has the edge on Bailey. Bailey takes him out. In the course of play, it should be a straight red. Would it have been? Who the fuck knows? Probably not with those two. But the advantage is played as the ball breaks forward into Darwin's path. He takes it on. He goes very wide in an effort to evade the keeper. But then flashes this absolutely stunning finish back, kind of high across the face of goal and across the keeper as well, who had dived kind of lower towards the bottom of the post. In a way, it's one of those finishes that is far more about blast than finesse. But, we will take that all day. So I do want to pause there because there's a bit going on there in the advantage played and all the rest of it, and the question of a red card and the question of retrospective action and all those kind of things. So pull that apart if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, so let's start with the goal. We know we've been watching Virgil for a long time now, coming up on 7 years since he joined the club. And we know he doesn't like to sprint, but he put in a hell of a sprint to get to that ball first. And it's a lovely cushioned ball into space for Mo. And, there's been some suggestion that Mo has lost a yard, and he's certainly not the same speedster he was when he joined just over 7 years ago. But he showed he can still sprint. Like, if he's into open grass, it's very, very hard to keep with him. Leon Bailey is no slouch at all, and he had a shorter path to the angle Mo was running at, and Mo got there first, knocks it past him. It's a coming together, but it's absolutely a foul. Like, it's absolutely a foul, and it is a red card because it's the denial of a clear goal-scoring opportunity. Now,
by the last man.
There's no covering defender, and the goalkeeper's obviously not getting out to the ball, so it would be a red card if nothing more happens. But we'll come back to that. Now, because Darwin gets onto it, it becomes like that's a second phase of play because Darwin's now a new character introduced to this. And he does brilliantly. I thought he'd knocked it too wide, but he just slams his foot through it. He lifts it just enough, and it's a great finish, and it's a great goal. Because we score from it, it doesn't negate the fact that Leon Bailey has committed a foul that is worthy of a card. Now, because we've scored, it's not he hasn't denied a goal-scoring opportunity because we've gone on to score. But he has fouled Mo Salah, and he's done it in, he's either getting the ball or he's fouling Mo. There's no in-between there with the way he commits for that. So because he commits the foul, it should be a yellow card. David Coote should be going to him after the goal and giving him a yellow card. And to my knowledge, he has not. And then I see the angle from behind the goal, behind our goal, as we're playing away. And David Coote throws his arms out. He doesn't throw his arms forward to indicate play on when Mo gets fouled. He throws his arms outwards to indicate he's not giving a free kick. It's not a foul. Which is really, really strange. Now, maybe it is just the perspective that you're looking at in the shot, but it does look like he is waving that away as not a foul. Now, VAR would have intervened, I would imagine, and potentially then it would have led to a red. But Leon Bailey was not booked in that game. So he should have been booked despite us scoring because it's a clear foul and it's a cynical foul. And it's a last man foul, but David Coote just seemed to wave it away, which is just very, very strange behaviour for a normal referee. For David Coote, though, it's kind of understandable.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. anfieldindexpro.com. For about the price of one cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, anfieldindexpro.com. Join today.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.